يا لغتي عربية حسبي بأنك منطقي وبياني عربية قلبي.
So Adam,
When you say to your 2-year-old, don't go outside, and they've been on.
Hasn't reached the age
I
of
mean,
knowing the difference between right and left.
that's my point.
Then Adam was at that age. Of
no,
Yeah,
understanding.
but he didn't have that knowledge. He didn't have the knowledge of good and evil.
you know, my point is three
He
things.
had enough knowledge to exercise his free will
He was given a command.
to make choices.
How do you define sin?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
but
does
he didn't
free
have-
will mean then? If he doesn't know good and bad?
How do you define sin?
So you know,
Okay.
my point is three things.
I'm just going to be saying the same things over and over now because that's the extent of my
That's
knowledge.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
Just last thing. My point is three things.
Yeah.
Original sin
Yeah.
means what I explained.
Yeah.
Every child is born with a sin which they didn't commit.
Yeah.
That's what we understand the original meaning of original sin. Second is the potential to sin, which I don't think is correct because Adam also had the potential. And third option
not
is
the knowledge.
the third option is there's no such thing as original sin because this is unjust. I'm going to be punished by something I never done. Unjust.
You're not going to be punished for. As a Christian, you're not punished for what you didn't do.
You know why? Because you're saying that this is the correct meaning of original sin, the second one. But the second one doesn't make sense.
Do you come often?
Yeah.
Are you going to be here in weeks to come?
Inshallah. God willing.
Isn't it that they believe that Jesus died for everyone else's sins?
Yes.
But you have to accept that.
An innocent
It's not
person.
No, but then that means, like, if you follow that way of thought, then that means that you believe that everyone has original sin, and that Jesus died to eradicate all those sins.
That's a different point.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
It is a good point indeed.
Yeah, but it's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a different point.
It's the consequences of that after.
What I would say in conclusion is,
I'm going to go and learn some more about the history of the doctrine
what I
of
would say,
original
what I
sin.
would say in conclusion is the concept which you brought of original sin.
We're finished, so it's okay. Finished? Yeah.
It is slow.
My knowledge on this issue has been exhausted.
The final conclusion, I would say, any concept of original sin cannot be from a true religion. Therefore, any religion which teaches original sin should be put aside.
Okay.
Do you feel it is unjust, the original sin?
Not my understanding.
He changed the interpretation of original sin.
So you're saying that a baby who's born with sin, with a negative account,
to put it on.
a baby is born with a negative account of a sin. You think that's just?
The way I understand the doctrine of original sin is you're not, the baby is not born
Carry on.
with the.
I'm going to go. Thank you very much.
What's your name?
Yusuf. Your name again?
David.
Yusuf. Joseph.
Yeah. So just quickly, because I was leaving before we started talking, is that the doctrine of original sin, the way I've heard it explained, is that you're not like a baby that's 2 hours old is not going to hell because they're born with original sin.
Isn't that baby a sinner?
They will be.
No.
If they-
At that 2 hours old, is that 2-hour-old baby not a sinner?
No.
So you do not believe in the original sin.
That's not what the doctrine
Okay.
of original sin.
So when does the baby become accountable as a sinner?
When they're able to
Know right from wrong.
what age that is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, that's actually the Islamic teaching, not the Christian teaching, unfortunately.
The doctrine of original sin
The
is
doctrine of original sin means you're born in sin. Even if it's 2 minute old, let alone 2-hour-old.
no, that's not the way.
That's what original sin means. It means
Well-
it carries on from mother to child or from parents to children.
That's not the way I understand it from what I've read and
So where did you read from?
I don't remember now.
Are you saying somebody taught you this?
No, I researched it.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I heard these arguments that a 1-hour-old baby is going to hell if they're a Christian. So
Maybe
I
what
looked
you
at the
researched from might be like like a minority.
Like I said to Yusuf, is I haven't studied the history of the doctrine, so I don't
Not
know.
the history, you have to actually study the doctrine itself.
Yeah.
The history comes later, but the doctrine itself, if you do not understand that the original sin
From
actually...
the earliest times, what did Christians believe?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at that, so I don't know.
Okay. What is sin? How would you define sin?
Sin is when you transgress against God.
Okay. Did Adam not transgress against God?
Yeah, you see that's the
crux of the matter.
theological issue.
That's the crux
I
of the
don't
matter.
understand. If he had the ability to make a choice, but he didn't understand the consequences because he hadn't partaken of the knowledge of good and evil, then he doesn't know the consequences of what he's doing.
No, but
so that falls outside, because the Bible says sin entered into the world at that time, that he didn't have the knowledge of what it is.
But then that would make God unjust for punishing someone who has not grasped the understanding of even sin. You see, you said
But
someone
he had told him that there would be a consequence if they did that.
Oh, so he knew then. Adam knew then.
But he didn't know.
He didn't know exactly what consequences, but he did know there was consequences.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
that
he
makes
was-
it sin
he was
then.
operating.
Why would
yeah.
that not make it sin? I
don't
fail to
know.
understand.
It's still first cause.
It doesn't matter even if it's first.
It has to begin somewhere.
Even if
And
it is
doesn't begin-
even if it is a first
because
sin.
God's creation was perfect.
Yeah, David, even if it is a first sin, the fact remains it is a sin.
Yeah, retrospectively we can call it
Yeah,
that.
doesn't matter what it is.
The first time something
If
happens,
it is a transgression of the law of God
see,
or the
I'm-
command of
I'm
God.
just arguing from my own
No,
musings.
that's fine. You can if you want to
have to go-
fine tune this argument later, we can probably discuss it when you have actually studied it. But right now, from your understanding of what Jesus, look, Adam, are you saying that he was created without any sin? Did he have any sin when he was created?
No.
He had no sin. So he was a sinless man.
Yes.
At that point. Yes. Did he have parents?
No.
No, he was the first man.
Yeah.
Okay, so no sin could have entered him from his parents.
No.
Yes, like for example, in your case, the original sin of Adam entered into you through your parents.
Yes.
Okay, so that cannot be the case. Sorry, that cannot be the case in the case of Adam because he had no parents.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why we can't.
Now the question arises.
I would imagine that that's where the distinction is going to come.
Distinction of what?
Of whether you can call what Adam did sin or not.
No, it's a transgression. It's a sin.
Because he's created perfect.
It's only for your satisfaction.
once-
You want to know whether it's
once
called sin or not because
once
you
the
define.
transgression
Yeah.
takes place, then
That is
you
a
can
sin.
call it that.
And then you
You
look,
can't call something.
when transgression takes place,
Yeah.
you call it sin, and then comes the consequences. So what you're doing is you're actually looking at the consequences first, rather than the actual definition of sin.
I imagine if something along the lines of this is going to be said is like that original act of disobedience is what ushers in sin
Exactly.
and the consequences for that.
Absolutely,
So,
which is exactly what I'm telling you.
yeah, you're not going to label that original disobedience sin.
It's called original sin for a reason, bro. You see, the reason they call it the original sin is because that's exactly what happened in the garden. Adam broke the law, or basically disobeyed the command of God, a very explicit command, yes, and he was told of the consequence. What consequence? Maybe he wasn't detailed on that. However, the fact is, he knew there was going to be consequences. Yes, it was a Satan who misguided him, and he fell for the trap of the Satan. Yes, he and Eve, both of them. The important thing is this: you see, when Adam was created, there's no doubt he was created with the free will, the ability to choose between right and wrong. Yes, choosing right is okay, is reward from God. Choosing wrong is a sin from God. Do you agree? He was instructed what to do and what not to do. He was told to eat from anything in this garden except that tree. So he was told what to do and what not to do. Now this is very clear. You see, the guidance from God is very clear. The command from God was also very clear: do not eat of this tree or else ... Yeah, the consequences. Based on your definition, disobeying God or
based on my uneducated, unresearched.
trust me, after you research it, and if it is not what I'm telling you, you come back to me and we'll discuss it. Yes, but trust me on this. if you disobey God and you transgress His laws, that is called sin. Yes, disobedience to God is sin. Now, it has to be a willful disobedience. Yes, obviously the other one is an unintentional sin, and you have an intentional sin. So we can divide sin into two, intentional and unintentional. Because Adam was specifically instructed what to do, yes, so it's when he actually ate of that tree, it's an intentional sin. Because there's no mention of that he forgot the law or something like that. Maybe the Satan tricked him into saying that if you eat from this tree, you will have the knowledge of, you'll have the knowledge of good and bad. Yes? And God told him you will die. So he believed the Satan instead of God over here. And by the way, he did not die.
You will not surely die.
Yeah, he did not die instantly. He died after 1,000 years or something. Okay, but anyway, the important point is that he had the potential to sin, which means he had the ability to choose wrong if he chose to, and he had the ability to choose right if he chose to. That is what free will means. As soon as you say he had free will, then it automatically implies, by extension, that he had the potential to sin.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but do you agree with it?
I don't know.
Why not? Think about it logically. If he had the ability to choose between right and wrong, if he had the ability to choose between to sin or not to sin, and he actually exercises that ability, that will of his, then how can that not be sin?
I'll tell you next time.
Okay, fair enough. No problem. Thanks for your time, David.
No problem.
Pleasure speaking to you again, as usual. Yeah, take care.
يا